So it's Monday, June 10th, 6:09 PM, calling to order the AAC meeting, Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting. Member roll call. Start. Excuse me. James O'Keefe. Now Sayre, President John Vars.
Here. Peter Markey.
Here.
Ryan Casey.
Here.
Cole Mazaragos Anastasio.
Here.
Crystal Shea.
Present.
Daniel Theobald.
Here.
Natural Resource Conservation Staff Jim Howard. San Mateo County Agricultural Commissioner Karen Whittle, sorry.
Here.
Thanks. Farm Bureau Executive Director Jess Brown. UC Co-op Extension Representative Dr. Igor Lacan. San Mateo County Planning Liaison Olivia Booth.
Here.
Oral communications to allow the public to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. If your subject is not on the agenda, the chair will recognize you at this time. Any members of the committee with an item not on the agenda?
Yeah. We have.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Peter. I public.
First, is there
Yeah.
someone from,
sorry.
not a lot of public here.
No, is there anybody online, Olivia, from the public?
No, not with hand raised.
Okay, but there's people there.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so nobody from the public to address the committee of an item not on the agenda. Okay, so moving to number 4, committee member updates and or questions to allow committee members to share news and or concerns for items not on the agenda.
Yeah.
Our chair recognizes Peter Markey.
Well, the first thing is, the golf tournaments today, at the same time as our meeting, so I see people are at golf tournament dinner for the Harborough Golf Tournament. And the other thing too is last month, there was, I thought I had it with me, there was a application for post property to put in a well, and it was in the same address as our properties. And I sent you that stuff. Did you follow up on it?
I haven't heard back from the planner.
Okay, let me know when you can. Okay. All right, thank you. That's all.
Any other committee member updates and or questions from committee members to share news or concerns of items not on the agenda?
I have.
The chair recognizes Corin Whittle.
So this Friday, we're having our final Ag ID disaster training program. We added equestrian facilities to it, and so we're trying to incorporate them. But if there's anybody else that hasn't been able to attend and that's qualified to get it, please call us. Our number is 650-363-4700. We would love to have you. The last training that we had wasn't well attended, so it's kind of, I don't know how many more we'll have right now, just because we can't ask that of CAL FIRE, because CAL FIRE comes and actually does the training, so this may be it for a little bit.
I understood last time it was for livestock, is it?
It's still for livestock, yeah, for the most part. I mean, the equestrian is kind of that gray area, so we added it in to try to
Very good, thanks.
help the community out. Yeah, and as far as there's legislation that still hasn't moved up at the state. So it was AB 1141 was gonna add in row crops as well to the regulations, and so that hasn't moved, unfortunately. It does have likely to do with the employee managerial and employee relationship in there. So we'll see if it gets reintroduced.
Is it possible to have an online course
We've been
available?
So the last time we had it recorded, in both English and Spanish. And so we're trying to, but we're not super savvy on technology and that kind of stuff. So we're trying to create a online course and
And would that qualify to let you pass, like, I am swamped at work and cannot get away for a whole day?
yeah,
So, and if this is the last one, then I can't get
get
it.
it. So, we'll have to like have another one, but I don't see any in the near immediate future. But we'll work on it and I'll come back and present that too. To you
Until
all.
then, do we still need to call the office, just let your office know?
Yeah, let my office know.
Can I get the
So
phone number one more time?
650-363-4700. And I have Jeremy Wagner. He's the
Okay.
one.
So just let
overseeing
him
it.
know?
Yeah. Just
What are the hours on that?
so it has 8:30 to 3:30, but really the morning is the training part. So the training is about 4 hours. And then the rest of the time will be filling out the paperwork and getting your ID and that kind of stuff. So
And the location on
it's here at the Ted Adcock Center.
that? Okay.
So 8:30 is the start time. Oh, and then, for the one thing that's been on my plate lately that's consuming a lot of my time is high path avian influenza. And, I'm sure I've talked about it several times here, but, basically there's 9 states now with, dairy cattle herds that have it. And so any cattle coming into California has to have inspection. And it's actually dairy cattle too, by the way. It's not all other cattle, it's any dairy cattle. So they have to have inspections before they come in. We're trying to keep it out, but it's in the wild bird population. Poultry farms have had it. And, but so far, the dairies in California have not. Although there were some positives in a bird market not too far away from here. So it's out there. So we're, the Department of Public Health is concerned about it. So much so that they're gonna do a one-time personal protective equipment distribution to employees of dairy farms, to slaughterhouses and poultry farms. So I'm working on some communication out to the industry with the county health department, because they'll be facilitating that distribution of PPE. So entities who have workers in those industries can apply for it and get PPE through this one-time distribution. So that's kind of, you guys will be hearing something from me in short order about that. And there'll probably be some press release too as well for that. So that's kind of the big, and basically this is just to get the personal protective equipment out there in case there is an outbreak in the industry, and so that it's already in place, so that the mammal to human is lessened, because that's the ideal, because the more human cases, then the more likely it could jump and be spread between humans. It's just kind of like the lessons we learned from COVID, trying to eliminate that possibility. So that, one last thing I have for you all is that our ag ombudsperson RFP is open, and it actually closes this week on June 12th. So we're opened it up to the public for the ag ombudsperson.
Person left or?
No, she's still here. It's just county contracts, and they just need to be open periodically to the public
Gotcha.
to get different proposals in. make sure we're doing right by taxpayers' money.
All right.
Okay, is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay,
Sorry.
no, are you kidding? That's perfect. Thank you very much. Any other committee member updates and or questions for items not on the agenda? I have one thing, is just, did everybody get the speaker that we had at the last meeting last month regarding the water? The county sent out answers to the questions that they submitted to environmental health, and they emailed them to all of us. Did you guys all get that okay? Okay, all right, so here's, you want to give us here? I took the answers to the questions and then they referenced a letter and I stapled the letter to it, so.
Was
I just
that
thought I'd-
email from Olivia?
Yeah, I sent it probably around like, maybe early this afternoon.
Yeah, it was about 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Which one?
Yeah.
So you should have it in your inbox if you haven't had a chance to
Which
look at
one's
it
the
yet.
questions and which one's the answers?
Well, the questions are in bold.
And these again were what I took notes of
And the
from
answers
that, I think 2 meetings ago, when we had the water master.
are- Oh, the blues answer.
And then the letter is,
Okay, gotcha.
and the letter
Other
is,
stuff's
they
like
reference
that.
a letter.
Question.
You didn't get it? Here, take that. I just made a couple copies in case somebody didn't get it. Sure. And then a couple more things, but I think that those are agendized items. So is there anything else from committee member updates and or questions? Okay, so next one is Planning and Building Department Director's Report from the Planning Liaison.
All right. Let's see. So there were no new planned agricultural district projects that were heard by the Board of Supervisors or the Planning Commission. There were no new planning agricultural permits received in the last cycle since the last meeting. And same for no coastal development exemption applications for agricultural projects. I did list under other projects, touching on what Natalie had just mentioned. One item is was in response to the questions that were raised for the domestic wells based on the water master's information shared. And if you do have questions, I know not everyone did not get a chance to read that, but if you do have other follow-up questions to the information that I shared, you can ask them today, or you can also send me, leave me a message, send me an email if you have further follow-up questions. And a second item I have under other projects for updates was for just in response, because I know that I believe there was mention last month of the Farm Labor Housing Task Force, and just some feedback that you folks are receiving. I do know that they are near done with that project. And there's going to be, I was looking at my notes, there's going to be, I believe, some kind of a summary. So I had originally inquired with Steve Monowitz to come and speak, or come or have somebody else come to speak and just give a refresher, etc. But I've been directed that there is going to be a type of a document that's going to be published. It's going to be worked on. It's not done yet. And they're going to be, I believe, doing a summary of that project. And so that is going to be upcoming, and hopefully that information will answer questions for that task.
Just for clarification, which project is this? Is this the housing, the county going into the farms, or? Is
Yeah,
this
the task force, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the document is gonna address what?
It's gonna be just discussing, my understanding is discussing what has been found. And
Okay.
overall, kind of an overall of the purpose and what, yeah, the results of it.
Okay.
I have a question.
The chair recognizes Peter Markey.
Sorry, go ahead.
Speaking upon the task force, one of the things that I was concerned about was the workshops that they had and what they said they were gonna do was different for the field people on the task force that did quite different. And I don't know where the translation of communication with their own people failed. So they said they were gonna do A, B, and C, and they did different. And I attended every meeting because I feared that, and it was proven I was correct. And so I don't know how that could be corrected for the future. And even as far as the last meeting that was at Pescadero, when Steve Monowitz said, trust me, we're not gonna get red tags. And one proper owner said, well, here's mine that you guys did. And so, and like I said, I feared this from the beginning, so I went to every meeting and it proven that I was correct. So I don't know where the breakdown was from what was the order to do to what was to the different people in the field that did differently.
Can we ask the county to address that in their document? Because the people that did in effect do things that they said they weren't gonna do when addressing a committee or group of people should be held accountable. The chair recognizes Cole.
I think, in addition to agreeing with what Peter said, a moment ago, I think one of the other concerns in terms of the general approach is that, well, I think everybody in this room agrees that like we need to address some of the bad housing that's in the county. I think the fear of this program was people losing their housing. And I think that this general conversation in terms of looking at the task force findings, you know, one of the things that I think that would be important to know is just also if it did displace any families, you know, what are those numbers? Additionally, I think it'd be nice to have an update from the county in regards to what are things that the county is potentially going to be doing in order to allow housing to become more abundant for particularly folks in the agricultural community. I know there's been a couple of different programs that have had funding, and it seems like last we heard lost some funding as well. It'd be great just to hear kind of an update as far as where we are with that, and potentially have a conversation just of maybe some ideas moving forward. Because I think you know everybody in this room obviously wants to have safe housing. I think we also see though that there's like a severe shortage of housing that's in pretty much every case leading to the unsafe housing as well. And so I think that's that'd be an important part of the conversation.
The chair recognizes Peter Markey.
I agree with Cole on the fact that there is a lack of housing on the coast here. And the county's talking about putting up a 4-story building for farm workers or retirees or whatever, farm retires or low or housing, whatever. But the one thing is, like a lot of us on the coast have 100-acre parcels. And due to the density system that you can only have one house per that, I really feel the county should revise that to be able to have 2 houses per density credit. So that way we could have more housing on the coast to help aid the lack of housing.
You don't need a density credit for a farm worker house.
No,
Correct.
the farm. I was talking about in general. I was
Housing.
talking about it in general, because there's a lack of housing for even other farm workers as well. So.
Corinne had her hand up and then you, Corinne, the chair recognizes Corinne Udell. Yeah.
A little bit more about the report out. So the county's been kind of waiting to like basically try to get as much information from the inspections as possible to put in the report. So there'll be findings about actual like whether they're red tags or that kind of stuff. So it'll have like a summary of the inspections and stuff and information like that. But in addition, it'll also have suggested solutions and outcomes from it too. And one thing is they do want to present it to the Farm Worker Advisory Commission. And so I think that'll probably be one of the first presentations of the report. And, but I'm not sure, because I think the next one is in July. The next, sure if it's going to be available at that July meeting or not.
So are they trying to complete all inspections?
They're trying, but I don't know if that will actually like happen or not. So it's just trying to get a majority of them done and completed. So that was part of why the report is taking longer than anticipated.
Crystal had her hand up. The chair recognizes Crystal Shea and then I'll go to you.
So to my understanding, the county task force is only doing the rural area. So when I spoke to Supervisor Mueller about the lack of, or if we actually need more farm labor housing, it was brought to my attention that the county has absolutely nothing to do with the city audit of the farm labor housing and if we are short. So where he and his task force is able to go and try to audit Moon Ridge to make sure that it is actually 50% farm labor, 50% low income housing. The Half Moon Village 1 and 2 is city jurisdiction, and from what we're all finding out, the city hasn't started theirs. So as an ag advisory committee, is it possible, I know we're with the county, but can we somehow get the city to light a fire to start their audit before they are spending all this donated money, tax dollars to say we need more farm labor when that might not even be the case? Because if they do their audit for Half Moon Village 1 and 2, it may actually be discovered that half of the people might not even need low-income housing because there are so many people making more money than originally when they applied. And that's just a thought, because I know I didn't realize it was two different audits that needed to be done, city versus county. And so where the county has sent everybody to the rural area and the county's doing their due diligence, the city hasn't touched it. So just thoughts on how we can get the city to start theirs, perhaps?
I think that's a good point, because I think it's imperative that we're a part of that, and that it's my understanding, what I read about that they do have to report to the county planning, at least to the planning department. So if in fact that's the case, if I read that correctly, then there's some due diligence there. So I think that I think that we ought to agendize that for the next meeting, because I think it is extremely relevant. Because and I'd like to be able to assess the need.
Well, I'm just thinking if we actually get the audits done and it does turn out that we don't need all this extra housing, are we short housing? Absolutely. But we need to make sure that we put the right people in the right kind of housing. But then also the extra money that we may have could go to the farmers who actually want to build housing or fix things up on their own property for their laborers. And I just think that the money going,
absolutely,
getting utilized in a more proper way.
I think it's important that, like, I think what she's saying, I think is extremely important. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot has occurred through emotion as opposed to data. So I think it's really important that occurs. Before we make a motion to agendize, Cole, you're next. The chair recognizes Cole.
The one last thing I would just mention, because and I think Crystal, I agree with that point in terms of we need to look at the housing we do have. We also have an issue, obviously, with housing on the coast. It's not being lived in. There's a lot of properties that are being bought as vacation homes, and I know that's a challenging thing to address from a regulatory perspective. I've been reading a little bit about how there's a few communities that are have similar issues that we do, are trying to figure out ways to incentivize either people who work and live locally within their area on being able to purchase housing, and maybe disincentivize people who are trying to buy second homes or vacation homes. I know in South Lake Tahoe, they're currently putting through trying to put through a law that would charge, I think it's a $6,000 tax on homes that are unoccupied for the majority of the year. And I don't know if necessarily that's the solution here, but I do think we need to address kind of the elephant in the room with this is almost all the new housing that's being purchased by Vascular has not been purchased by somebody who lives or works in the community. It's largely across the board not, and I know just because, you know, we go to look at properties sometimes, and real estate agents are usually surprised to even see folks who are actually living and working in Pescadero, you know, looking at homes to purchase there, because that's not usually who's at these showings. And I wonder if there has been any examination from the county in terms of how addressing this particular issue, and seeing if there's a way that we could have, you know, maybe a incentivized process to encourage more people who are in the community buying properties. Yeah, I would love to hear if there have been ideas. It's maybe a discussion that we need to start having as a community, and it seems like other communities that have similar issues are trying to at least address this in some way or another.
The chair recognizes Mike O'Neill.
Are you speaking short-term rentals or long-term rentals?
What I'm referring to specifically in the South Lake Tahoe property is not like Airbnb. This is specifically homes that are purchased and they're not occupied for more than 6 months out of the year.
It's like a family's weekend
Yes,
holiday home,
exactly.
right?
Right.
Yeah, and so I think the way it works is I think the first year that's unoccupied for more than 6 months, there's an additional $3,000 tax. I think after the second year, in 8 years forward, it goes up to $6,000 per year. And I think in particular, a lot of the folks who are buying second properties in this area are doing so largely to avoid property taxes because of Williamson Act, and which they're often able to do. And you know, I think this would disincentivize that a little bit, where I think the idea is if you're actively working in our community and you're living in our community, you know, I'm all for everybody, you know, having homes. And not to say that people should have vacation homes, but I do think we need a level playing field, because we effectively have dual economies in our community right now.
You need to clarify that, because if you're in the coastal zone,
Yeah.
the coastal commission wants short-term rental. They want Airbnbs in.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
All right, they shut mine down.
Did they, the coastal commission?
I don't know who.
Yeah,
county
but
said.
no,
Yeah.
because Santa Barbara's local coastal plan was denied because they specifically said they did not want short-term rental.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
interesting.
visitor serving in their opinion.
Interesting. Okay.
Although they are kind of adapting it because it's becoming such a big
Mhm.
issue
Yeah.
of loss of housing.
It's fascinating.
The chair recognizes Peter Markey.
Yeah, I would like to see, I'm against additional tax even if the place is occupied or unoccupied. I would rather find more of a different incentive to having people live in houses versus pay more money because they're not living in houses. I know some property owners don't want to have rather not rent it out and rather have it vacant because they don't want to bother with rentals and whatnot, and I don't want to see them being penalized for having their homes vacant. But if there's more of a incentive, when like I was talking earlier, to be able to put more homes, and I was talking to Farm Labor, it's like last month we had the issue that we approved for one of some additional home beyond for affordable housing, and more of that, and where the person could have their children be on the property, and like with Debbie Johns's parcel last month, and that's some more incentive that way to be able to put more homes for people that grew up in here and on the coast. But I am against taxing somebody for not putting people on that don't put people in so that's on that there. But we could find a positive way, maybe to encourage them to house them or something. So,
I feel similar too. I'm not crazy with the idea of having a tax like South Lake Tahoe is doing, but I do think though that having an incentive program is something that maybe in this room, maybe we should be starting that conversation. I don't know if that's something we should agendize in the future, because it seems like there's something needs to be done about this issue. It's kind of the elephant in the room always in these conversations about housing is the majority of all the housing, especially housing that comes in the market, is not being utilized by folks in the community.
And following up a little bit on that, Cole, is one of the problems that I see in the history growing up in the Pescadero area. When a house gets burnt down or something,
Mhm.
the process of the county is so difficult to rebuild.
Mhm.
It's a lot of them don't get the, this is in my teenage years. This is my fifth produce stand. There was one of the oldest houses in Pescadero that burned down and that never got up. As you enter Costanova, this is on the right-hand side. There is a house there when I was through high school. There's farm workers lived in it, and that got burnt down and not replaced. And if you look at the library photos around Pigeon Point Lighthouse, and it says there is a lot of houses in the lower end on the field where music is just a farm in the one spot that got burnt down. And before I was born on Highway 1, where we farmed, cow trailers knocked down the house so the Highway 1 could go through, and it wasn't replaced anywhere. And these are just a few things off the top of my head, but there's a lot of houses. And look at what Sims, it's Cindy and Steve Sims had to go through to rebuild their store. I says that was burnt down. So what I'm trying to say, there was a lot more homes in the area that they just they're just not going to do it because it was so hard to do it. Yeah, you know.
Mhm.
So I mean, a lot, and I'm just thinking of a few right off the top of my head that I've seen in my lifetime that I know that there was even more. When my dad grew up in Pescadero, and besides having a barber shop, they had a soda fountain shop, and there's a blacksmith shop, and a lot more and stuff, and everything else as well. Look at White Front, that's is across from the community church. That the post office used to be there before it went to where it's now, and that used to be a restaurant, the Elkhorn Restaurant, and the post office was across, like I said, the community church, and Saraga's garage used to be there, and beside, and so there, that building got burnt down and then not replaced. And so what I'm trying to say is because it's so hard to replace with our county as they go down, and we're getting less houses. So
Well, I think one of the things that's occurring, and it falls in line with us and our duty in this committee, is that a lot of people are leaving and moving elsewhere because farming is not as viable as it used to be in San Mateo County. We have less farms, we have less farmers, we have less acreage farmed, and so they're leaving and they're not living in those houses. So that would lead me to say, I believe the incentive should be something positive that helps people to want to stay in the community. And I think that you bring up a great point, Cole, but it's so sad because that's what's happening. So I think something where we need to be less restrictive on the agriculture community in San Mateo County, number one. And my second thing is leads me to what Crystal talked about the farm labor housing in Half Moon Bay in the city limits. Along with that, I want to ask if Corin, if you know if the work that they're doing with the for the Farm Labor Advisory Committee, are they going to be including in that report what the need is? Because I think that's been a point of contention for many months, is trying to find out what exactly is the need for the laborers, because we're seeing less and less, a huge decline in farming in our area, but yet they're putting aside housing. So are they gonna be addressing that in the report?
So it only addresses those properties that were inspected. So it can't address, Moon Ridge, or it can't address the people that maybe live like in houses that aren't on
Okay.
farms.
So
Yeah.
it's
So it's
specific to the
only gonna
task
look
force.
at,
Okay.
at the inspections.
Okay, and then that would lead me, Ryan, one more thing, and I'll double back to this, is I want to ask where we are with the farm labor housing loan forgiveness program that we were told several months back that they would be addressing. So I'll double back to that, and Ryan Casey, the chair, recognizes.
I just want to make the point that I think the assessment of what housing needs are, at the present necessary to sustain the population of workers now, it's a tricky one because it's just like a snapshot of where we are, which isn't really in a great place in terms of agriculture in this county right now. But it doesn't mean down the road, there couldn't be bigger operations out here again, or more farmers farming out here again, but that's not gonna happen if this housing thing just dwindles, I do think that this county could attract more growers, but it's not gonna do so unless the housing is available for the workers and for the farm owners. I think that's one of the big blocks from not just making it challenging for existing operators, but I think it's a major block in attracting new operators to this county. So I just hope that the county has the wisdom to see beyond just the present moment, but think optimistically about the future and what they can be doing to attract more growers.
Thank you. The chair, okay, the chair recognizes Peter Markey.
Yeah, and I agree with Cole, maybe we could agendize this and we could maybe brainstorm and later date, but before I go on that, I want to just say is like even the farm that my father and grandfather started in 1952, we had farm labor housing that accommodated about 24 people, 24 employees. And then since it was owned by a family in LA, the property that we rented from, and then with the Post Peninsula Space Trust purchased it, they wanted the farm labor housing to go away because they felt it obstructed the view of the ocean along with the packing shed and also outfit. So there's housing that goes away due to open space, and and as well as on the Ladder Ranch, and the Ladder Ranch is just south of Gaz's Creek, and that house got burnt down, and he had a barn there. He actually had growing up a really nice museum with a lot of people. Schools used to go out there and see a lot of old stuff there. Once that got burnt down, he was up in age, so it just sold. That never got rebuilt as well. But anyways, but I agree that if we want to hash this out, it would be a good agendized item to talk about.
Well, there's two items that have been brought up to agendize. So, and I'm sorry, Crystal, the chair recognizes Crystal, and then we'll see if we can have motions on those if you like.
I was just gonna piggyback on what Brian was saying, and, if we have lack of farm labor housing, it could deter future farmers for this county. However, what we also need to make sure of is when we build low or farm labor housing, that it stays just as that. So Moonridge was actually supposed to, when they were trying to collect all the funds, it was supposed to be 160 units for strictly farm labor. And midway, they decided to, even though they already promised all the people who donated the money and they got all these donations, they, in the middle of the project, changed it to 50-50. Well, that's breaking a promise, and you're lying. So part of my issues and why I feel like we need to do our due diligence and get behind the get the city to do this audit is we think we're so short housing, and it simply might not be the case. When you apply for low-income housing, your luck can change. You can get a better job, you can get a raise, you can then no longer qualify for that low-income housing, but you are not going to volunteer to go move somewhere else because you don't qualify to let somebody else in there. You're going to stay there as long as you can, and you just got more money in your pocket. Well, we haven't done those audits, and hold people accountable. So where we have low-income housing, they should not maybe be in Moon Ridge, they could be moving in closer to town, which then frees up farm labor housing in Moon Ridge. So I feel like we need to get our ducks in a row
Yes.
and do our audits to make sure how many farmers do we have who actually don't have their laborers on their property, how many is on their payroll, and then make sure that when we do build, we keep it open for the farm laborers, because like Ryan said, if we don't have the housing, they're not gonna come.
And some sort of oversight committee, I'd like to see when this is agendized, what is the oversight committee that they're using for that? Because like Moon Ridge, for Moon Ridge, off the top of my head, our employees included, can think of many men who were on that wait list to our farm laborers and didn't get to get a place to live there, because somebody who was not a farm laborer was given the place. So that's, I think the oversight's needed because it hurts the other people. Anyway, I know we gotta move on, so just Peter Markey, and then we'll finish the director's report.
Yeah, I'll just be.
Is that right?
I actually wanted to ask, going back on, you mentioned, you mentioned, can the county be less restrictive on the ag community? And I was curious if you had anything specific in mind so far. And if you don't, just to put, I just wanted to get like more like what you're thinking, right? To thought process was on that kind
Well,
of.
that can be a very long meeting on that. I mean, there's a list of several restrictions that makes it difficult for people in San Mateo County who own property to be able to do on their own farms or property. So I think that would be something I'd have to write up, but I'd be happy to do so. Yes, thank you.
One specific thing I would have as a suggestion would be that not only would fees be waived for the construction of farm labor housing, but that resources would exist, that there'd be a planner, perhaps like you, Olivia, or someone else, one of your colleagues, who would have as one of their tasks actually assisting producers in the process of putting together applications to permit housing, because I know that is an enormous barrier. Even if you're not paying fees, it's like you're having to pay an architect or like the septic expert or the all these different people, the plumber who's going to test your well, and it's hard to even know how to do all that stuff. Not that the county would necessarily pay for those things for you, but to provide guidance to help you through that process.
I'll put together a list, so anybody who, I'll give you my email, have something you want me to put on that list, I'll put it on the list, because I appreciate you asking. One thing that comes to the top of my mind really fast is, I mean, a million things do, but it's just like an obvious point of contention, but is equality. Land is land. This phone, whether this phone belongs to me or it belongs to Crystal, it doesn't change the fact that this is a phone, correct? The problem is with land, you can take the same piece of land in San Mateo County, and if I own it, I'm restricted. If I want to do, let's look at subdivision for one. If I subdivide the land, I lose a density credit. So if I subdivide it and I can't put another house on the other parcel unless I put into low income or farm labor housing. If Post does that, or an entity like them, they don't lose a density credit. So we need equality across the board amongst the land. Okay, we talk about equality in other areas of life. This is one that is so important to the preservation of agriculture on our coast. So that within itself is one area. And it hurts farmers, and I'll tell you why. Because when we talk about future generations, when we talk about Miss Bandini that was in here at the last meeting, and building a home that her son could live in. We talk about those kinds of things. a lot of farmers are leaving. A lot of houses, as Cole talked about, are vacant, are being sold to people who just want to put Airbnbs on them. It's hurting the economy of towns like Pescadero, as you talked about. And why? Because they can't make it here anymore because it is not equal in terms of opportunity. And it should be. So that is a good example, is subdividing your land and losing density credits. Peter Markey, the chair, recognizes.
Yeah, okay, there's just one very quick is, I agree with Crystal in the part with Blue Ridge is, and when it was deemed, through the city for, farm labor, and it needs to be looked at, but I also want to add that I don't want to lose the flexibility that we also have on private property that had occurred in the past, meaning that there's been situations where a house went up as farm worker housing, and then through time, it was no longer able to make money enough to support a farm worker in their house, so they got to convert it to low income housing, affordable housing. I want to make sure we don't, on private property, I want to make sure we don't lose that, because that also, in the past, through our committee that we approved, there was families that were farming on the land, and they had their son live on the house that they set up through their housing that worked on the land, and then through time could no longer afford to do so. So that person had to leave the farm and work elsewhere. So they converted it to affordable housing. I want to make sure that the flexibility, we don't lose that.
Thanks. The chair recognizes Eliza, the ombudsman. She's still the ombudsman. Right?
Hi, everyone. Yes, this is Eliza, the agricultural ombudsman. I just wanted to respond to something that Ryan said, just kind of around the idea of county support with permitting and navigating both, I think, costs, but also just the complexity of the farm labor housing program. And I just kind of wanted to just mention that that is sort of the role of this position. However, in order to be really effective, I think in a process like that, there would need to be more training for this role from the county so that I could actually be very effective in supporting folks through that process. So I just wanted to kind of encourage that so that, you know, we're not asking them necessarily to create a new entity or a when there's already resource being put into this program. They could kind of bolster it to make it more useful, specifically to Ryan's point around what it takes to get your farm labor housing permitted and built. So just wanted to kind of mention that.
Okay, and then Peter Markey, and then I should probably wrap it up to finish the director's report and agendize those two items. So Peter Markey, the chair recognizes.
I just want to say, I think we should, like Cole said, agendize this and move on, because there's a lot we could discuss about this.
Yes.
And coming up for a few other items, we could be here a long time.
Right, and then agendize the other topic as well. Cole, would you like to move to agendize that?
Sure, I'll move to agendize it.
We'll say it how you would like to have it said. as far
Sure.
as-
I guess it would be, I mean, if anybody's in that, please feel free to, but I think agendizing a discussion of more proactive ways of developing and preserving farm labor housing within the agricultural communities of the county. Yeah, there's probably more I could say about that in terms of a lot of what you said, but I don't know, is there anything else anybody has that would be a better way of describing that?
I second
the motion.
Perfect. Okay, so we're agendizing for the next meeting, a discussion of proactive ways to pursue farm labor housing in the county. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then Crystal, the chair recognizes Crystal.
I mean, is there a proper way to contact the city to get them to start audits? Because there are a lot of, I guess they are in charge of a lot of there's a lot of farm laborers who live in the city portion where the county can't do their due diligence. So if the city's not working with the county, then we're kind of only doing half of our homework.
would it be the city council, the council meeting?
I'll ask. I'm trying to think of, I'll ask, management, see the process for that.
So should we have a second agenda item for the current building of the city, Half Moon Bay City Farm Labor Housing? Or should we put that under the umbrella of Cole's agendized item? Any thoughts on that?
Separate item?
Well, she-
Probably
she
separate,
was-
because I
yeah.
feel like one is, let's do our due diligence, let's do our homework, get our ducks in a row, and what Cole's wanting to do is for moving forward, how can we do this to protect and, you know, get
Okay.
things moving?
Okay, good point.
So I think it
Okay.
is two different, but I
Do you
mean,
want to move your item to agendize it for the next meeting in the way that you want it written for the next meeting?
oh
Sorry.
boy. Oh,
Follow his lead, right?
I mean, I want the city to know that we're here to support them, but we also can't expect the county to do their due diligence and do a task force audit. Or I guess an audit and task force when the city's not doing theirs. So that we can all come to one to, you know, at the end of the day, we're all trying to achieve the same thing.
Okay, so you move to, you could say, I move to agendize a discussion of oversight of the farm labor housing unit that's being built
That's
in Half Moon
perfect.
Bay.
I couldn't said that any better.
Okay, I just paraphrased what you said. All right, so you can pick me or Crystal, whoever you want to have that moved with that. And then as it was a two-person effort, and then do we have a second? And Cole seconds it, okay. And then on that same thing, before we finish the director's report, would it be possible, you think, to get somebody maybe after the discussion, well, we could talk about this at the discussion, but possibly it might be a good idea to have somebody, I'd like to see somebody come in from the city to discuss what they're doing, why they're doing it, why they're doing, you know, what's the data that shows this many units versus this many, how come this, you know, I know that they changed it a couple times to meet certain needs, so we can learn more about it specifically from them. And maybe we could discuss that at the next, when it's agendized at the next meeting. So, okay, good. So, Olivia, did you want to move to, did you, there's still a line between 2 and 3. So your next one.
I put it under other projects, a number 3, just, I wanted to touch base on Cole, committee member Cole had mentioned, a more formal protocol for the AAC committee, and I wanted to I didn't ask, to get a better understanding of what you had in mind.
From the last meeting?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of a formal protocol for I'm trying to remember the context of that. I think it was, I apologize, it
Let me see.
doesn't ring any bells.
It's related to the fire station.
Oh, there we go. That rings a bell. Yes, I think what I was referring to last time, I think there was other folks who had similar sentiments, was that in regards to the process of the agricultural easement mitigation for the Pescara Fire Station location. I think I know that process is outside of this committee's domain. That said, however, I think the purpose of this committee is largely to advise the county, you know, as it relates to agricultural issues, even if it really is not within the specific domain of what this covers. So I would just say having a more formal process of when the county does select a property, presenting the property to this body in here, and it may be that everybody's just, you know, great on board, but there may be concerns. And obviously, you know, I don't think I'm saying that the folks in here would be able to just vote and override, you know, the county's decision, but I do think though it's worthwhile having the process be brought to the advisory committee here, because at the very least we could probably provide additional information or context just with wealth of knowledge of inexperience of a lot of folks here in the room, a lot of whom probably know the history of any particular property within our county. So I think that was the main thing, just having a formal presentation process for a particular property that may arise.
Okay, thank you.
The, one thing, Olivia, is that I want to share with Cole, because and anybody who wasn't here before, and please correct me if I have any of this incorrect, because I don't have my notes on it, but this property was the Pescadero Fire Station, that property they're putting the fire station on, it was brought before our committee because back then it was zoned PAD. And anything that's zoned PAD should be brought before our committee, especially if it's on prime ag land, and we make the determination and that's discussed. It's imperative, it's part of what we do. So I want to say that, but I want to say, I believe that the reason that we don't have a say in this now is because they changed the zoning of that property when we discussed it here and we did not pass it. Is that correct? Because now it's institutional, and then we've never seen it come before the committee since.
I will have to check on that.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that's the case, and I'm not.
Well, isn't it also true that we make recommendations and that may or may not be taken under consideration?
Oh,
by the
absolutely,
county?
but the recommendation was never given because we hadn't yet voted on it. But when it was PAD, and then they changed it to institutional, so then they went, and so then when it was no longer PAD, it wasn't required to then come before our committee. So I think that might be part of the reason that, you know, did not bring it before us. Peter.
Are we on item 6?
We are on number 3 of the director's report. I just wanted, she was getting clarification from Cole, and I just want to give some of the history, what had occurred. You know, I think that's, yeah.
And it does intertwine, to answer Peter's question, it does intertwine with the item on the actual agenda.
Okay, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Peter. I didn't understand your question correctly. Okay, so, go ahead, Olivia.
I did want to get also, because I know that I had sent out, and from there's with the discussion that's happened the past couple meetings about on this topic. I have been checking with management, and this committee, you can, as a body, send a letter to the county with your comments, but you cannot do it, you cannot be, as a body, you cannot do it to the coastal commission.
No, and I figured that I after I thought about everything, yeah, we could send our comments to the county and our concerns and our suggestions, and then they could take it for whatever it's worth. And we could also ask the county to please, once they identify a property, let us in the loop so we could give them feedback back. And we could ask them for that.
And
So-
there is also an option, and this happens with our projects in general. It went back to the information I sent out. I can't remember if it was direct correspondence with Natalie or if it was the committee in general, but again, on this topic, you can send, because it happens with our projects, and for our projects, we do get comments from individuals on projects. So you could also do that with directly, you know, one member chooses to do it, and you have the option of reaching out to the coastal commission, right? So that path you could do, but they're clearly separate paths, correct?
To the county, are we allowed to send a letter as
Yes.
the committee?
Yes,
So we can give a committee recommendation. to
you can
them, Okay.
submit a letter,
But it goes to the county.
yes, yeah,
We're advisory.
Which-
yeah,
which-
because you're advising the
which would-
county.
which
But
would
for the
make sense,
coastal
yeah.
commission, I know that also came up.
Okay,
that path, you cannot do the same path.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you could, like you said, you could do it individually as an individual person.
okay.
Which
that
people
makes-
do
that
quite
makes sense.
frequently, actually. I mean, for various projects, not specifically this one.
And I would like to see us as a committee, if the committee passes, send a letter to the county stating, please keep us in the loop. Because with our expertise, we can give you feedback, letting you know if that land has been farmed or not.
Can,
With our years of experience on the coast, living here, farming here, and our expertise.
I'd be happy to write it and
That'd
then
be
bring
fine
it
by
to
me.
the next meeting to get approval from you all before it's submitted.
That's fine.
Is that
That'd be great.
a way to do it?
That'd be a way to do it.
Yeah, a similar process, which I think you use in terms of the
Farm labor housing.
budget one, right? The funding one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the loan.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, that's great. Okay, so, Olivia, additional announcements?
So the next meeting is July 8th, and then I do keep the standing topics. I think it's let me see what it is here. It's the Peninsula Open Space Trust parcel excluded from the wildlife conservation. I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that. If you don't, that's okay too.
That's gonna be the next meeting.
No, it's just sometimes I know at one point the committee as a whole wanted to keep topics kind of on the back burner, so to speak, if anything wanted to be discussed. So this is a way to kind of capture that.
Who knows pretty well, and that is Dante, and I know, because there's also the golf tournament
Oh.
thing. I don't know if it's online or not, so.
No,
And Dante, if it's on the agenda, he would use the agenda, and so then if it's something to his interest, he'd make sure. he's-
But it's ongoing, so it'll be in the next meeting.
Yeah,
So we'll address it.
exactly.
every meeting. The chair recognizes Ryan Casey.
I just want to say, I don't know if we're doing ourselves any service continuing to keep it on the agenda. I feel like it just scares posts from coming to these meetings in any sort of casual way. And if they do end up at a meeting that's gonna be for some other thing on the agenda, and we're just kind of like preparing to attack them on something that they aren't actually coming to the meeting.
But they've been invited, they choose not to come.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know what's better or worse, but I'm saying, I don't think they're gonna just choose to come casually in these meetings when we keep this on the agenda, because they know we're just gonna.
I mean, they might
Yeah,
have some
ongoing.
concerns, but as long as we follow the outline, because we can only discuss agendized items or, like, right? There's.
So if they were to
Yeah, I
sign
just,
in.
I don't see it
Yeah,
working either way. I don't think we're creating an environment that's actually inviting for them to actually come to these meetings, and they're,
see, trust person, wildlife conservation or associated, like,
I was just making that point. I
Sure.
just don't, I
What
can
do
see
you-
this staying on the agenda for another year, and I don't think it's gonna
Yield us
yield us
information.
anything.
Yeah,
And I think if they do end up at these meetings, it's gonna be because of something else entirely on the agenda. And it's gonna potentially distract from whatever that is.
do you?
Is there
I'm
interest
just
to remove
making
it?
that point.
Yeah.
Should it be, should it instead, maybe it could be worded that somebody who has parcels related to that can share anything that they want to share to keep us in the loop, but as opposed to just, it being with post name in there. Like, like in other words, like you mentioned, Dante is in the loop, and if we want to know about what's going on, then maybe we could say anybody that has, would like to share information, but take their name out of it, so they're not, being kind of held to the fire, right? Would that work? Would that suffice for?
No, it's just if we invited them many times and they never came. Have them come, just explain some stuff.
I see what Ryan's saying, is if they see this on here constantly, it's gonna deter them to come in. but then they come in for another topic, and because it's not on the agenda, we can't ask them anything. So then at that point, it's put it in for the next time and invite them and hopefully they just come in. So maybe rewording it.
I think rewording it would be a good
Might-
compromise if you all agree with that.
We should put it
Might
off-
be less scary for them.
Well, we put it off to next meeting.
Okay,
So we can think about it a little bit.
okay.
Yeah, maybe Peter, you're you have a share in
Yeah.
the Lake Lucerne Mutual Water Company,
I
right?
do, I do.
So maybe you might think of like how you would word it in a way where you could,
But I can share with you a little bit what's going on with that, though, is we've been meeting with them, and it's been a private meeting with Post and the shareholders, and discussing basically this property that they want to sell to MRSD and our concerns as shareholders, as Post has part of the shares quite a bit, and they pay to contribute to keep it going. And MRSD, are they gonna keep paying or not? Because and keep the shares, and so that's the discussion process that's been going on, so that's basically it. So
Okay.
Do you want me asking, what is the timetable? Because I know that transfer of MRC is, from my understanding, a chunk that's happened or a lot of time going. What is the timetable of, when this process is done? Is there one?
they said in a certain time that they like to have it done by, and I don't remember, Cole, I just don't remember. And I do know that they had recently a meeting with their shareholders of the flume, because a lot of people didn't see the flume. I seen it and everything. I didn't go to that one. And then we were supposed to have another meeting shortly after, but we did not. I'm assuming that I gotta check with Laura. We'll have another one coming up, and as shareholders, we have concerns that we're talking about and all. So right now, so one of our biggest concerns is the Post says, okay, we're gonna sell this and we do away with their water rights. Well, and then that raises the cost to the rest of us because they're giving, and that's one of our big concerns as well, and that we're discussing right now, but nothing is perspired yet. So
Okay, so, did you guys want to agendize that or for the next meeting, or did you just want to bring it up at the next meeting when we talk about, when it comes up of whether since it's already on an ongoing agenda, we could just bring it up, and
I have a
discuss,
suggestion.
yeah,
My suggestion is, why don't this committee, if it's okay with the county, send a letter to Post and say that there's concerns that we would like to address. Could someone either come here or send a letter, because they might reply that because it was told to us that it's a private meeting and we can't discuss it openly yet, but we'll let you know so you can. I don't know, but they might give you some insight, you know what I mean? So.
okay,
And you might want to send a letter to MRC as well and say, what could you share with us? You know what I mean? So.
okay. Is that something we could do?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because this was when I first started my transition of me coming on board. I know that there was earlier discussions. I was trying to remember if there had been effort made to do that already in the past.
They have been.
That's what okay.
There's no pressure on Post because it's a private organization, not a public.
Okay.
Right.
So they don't have to come here.
I mean, you said you could write, so theoretically, you could submit a letter and it's up to them to, accept or not.
And my concern at the beginning was exactly like what's going on. And then when they finally had their meetings and had us come, then I could kind of see their point too. Like you're saying, Mike, is it was the shareholders. And this is what we want to do, and this is what we do. And there's a lot of discussion between all of us of what we can do, and what was the best way. And we never came to a conclusion yet. It's still in the, I would say, in the brainstorming stage, you know what I mean? And then we had MRC come because we had questions for them. And we asked a lot of questions, the shareholders, and the MRC answered quite a bit, but nothing is set yet. And so.
And then kind of to answer Cole's question, what Mid Peninsula has is they've closed escrow on a bunch of property, but the area around Lake Lucerne, they have an option, you know, to explore all these contingencies. And I think, if I remember correctly, don't hold me to this, is I think we stayed an option for 3 years from whenever it started.
And I don't remember the time frame, but you could be right. And so we're addressing us as shareholders, our concerns, and they're addressing how they could accommodate us with our concerns and how we can make it work. And that's basically what's going on right now.
And that's what this option period is, because at this point, Mid Peninsula could just walk away because they have not closed escrow.
Right. And so, MidPen's one of their concerns is because, as they put it, is that the habitat around those reservoirs is really pristine. And like I at the meeting said, is one reason it's pristine is because us farmers has keep the watershed in such a good manner because of that water quality has to be good for us growing our crops and all. And so they are interested in purchasing it to keep it that way. And we're saying fine, but as long as this doesn't happen, you know, do this A, B, and C, and we get to pull our water through our water rights. And so it's all through the think tank right now.
I think one of the issues also is the infrastructure, correct? Because the sloughs are all built back in like the early 1900s and probably need to be fixed. They were built out of redwood.
There's a certain amount of money that's allocated that we pay, all the shareholders that pays annually to keep up, like you said, the levies and whatnot. And we had this discussion and all that tariff stuff. And it's not cheap upon all of us. So, and like I say, so we're discussing it all. And so, and like I say, your concerns, I have the same concerns in the beginning, but I kind of got their point a little bit more once I started hitting the meetings and stuff and all this here. So, anyways, I don't mind reporting. There's not very much to report other than the fact that, like I say, when you said it, Mike, Post wants to leave, and they have shares. Mid-Penn wants to buy it, but they don't want the shares, but we want them. What are you gonna do then if you don't have the shares to keep paying costs if you have shares? And that's what we're discussing, because to keep farming going on the coast. So with those.
Is this, for my ignorance, and maybe this is totally out of left field, is there a way to transfer those shares to other properties that no longer have access to the same amount of water?
At this point, no, but we discussed, we did, through our meetings, we did discuss that to try to bring down cost, is to possibly other owners selling some of the shares to other farms. So that way they're, like you say, so one person that has a lot of water rights won't be burdened with, they don't need all those water rights with a hefty bill to sell them to somebody that needs some water, and nothing to settle. But and can that be done or not? There's a lot of discussion. And one of the things is we have that still owns property and owns water rights, as Vince Music. He was on board way back, attorney Vince Music on board on this way back when, and knew the history and knew, well, we can't do this because of this, that. And so it's like I say, it's an ongoing discussion. So
Peter, have the parcels that Dante was specifically concerned about that were in a wildlife conservation easement, have those come up in your discussions?
That didn't come up yet. So that didn't come up. And like I say, meetings are just the shareholders and stuff, but, and that's why when we discuss here, I like to have Dante, if my wife present, because he knows that part really well, better than I do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I think, thinking about wording and possibly changing the wording, and when I say possible, doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but I'm just saying, thinking about A, which should we do it, and B, how should we do it if in fact we decide to do it on our agenda, and doing that for the next meeting is a good idea. So is that okay with everybody? Okay, and then Olivia, do you want to go on and then, because after your report, we could move to item 6?
Yeah, I think all of my items are done now,
Okay,
aren't they?
so, thank you, and thank you, Peter, for the update. And then item 6 is discussion Pescadero Fire Station regarding the agriculture easement mitigation measure. So, we talked about it some already. And Olivia basically told you what she had sent me in an email regarding what we could do and can't do as a follow-up. Thank you for following up with that. Peter, the chair recognizes Peter Markey.
Yeah, like Olivia said, which we can't, as a committee, send directly to the coastal commission, but like I said earlier, if we vote and we all approve, that if we could send a recommendation to the county asking to please keep us in the loop when they do identify a parcel, to ask us if that parcel's ever been farmed, or ask us for our feedback, period. And we can then give our feedback back to the county about the parcel that we get.
And are we allowed in the letter to them to actually give our recommendation? Or because it's no longer PAD zoned and they are not coming before us anymore, are we not allowed to give that, and we're only allowed to ask to be kept in the loop? Which is
We
it?
can give our recommendation, as long as it's to the county.
Is that
because we're
correct?
Advisory to the county.
Okay, that is, I think that's wonderful, because I think that then we can, the concerns about the prime ag land. Is there a possibility to bring the paperwork that was brought before the committee regarding this? I think it was last year or something like that, when it was PAD land, when they did need our recommendation. Is it possible to resend that to us so we have some of that to look through before we write the letter?
Yeah, let me take a look.
You don't have to remember what meeting that was.
Oh, I wish I did, no. No.
I don't remember yesterday.
It was probably over a year ago.
It was before Crystal was on the committee, otherwise I'd have Crystal, she's got a good.
It was
more
before
organization
Fred.
here.
No, I think Fred was there.
What do you do?
He was trying to-
Very cold.
Yeah, I think we're still online.
We're online still.
This year before I was here, I joined in August, so it was about at least July of last year or before.
You drove,
I
okay.
joined in,
Yeah.
double check, yeah.
Oh, that's great,
August last
thank
year.
you, Corin, for looking it up.
I have way too many minutes.
If at the very, I mean, if it's possible to send it to every committee member, so then when I write a letter and bring it to you guys, then, you're able to say, hey, wait a minute, that's, that doesn't sound correct or whatever, so we can, we can all make an informed letter together. And including myself, send it to me too.
It'll take me a really long time if I ever find it, but if I do, I'll remind us all of what meeting that was.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna put this on the agenda so we can talk about it next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So Olivia, let's agendize this for the next meeting, and I'll bring the letter. In the interim, we'll try to get that information when they came before this committee, so that we have that information before making a letter. And Corin, if you do find it,
Mhm.
how will you be able to correspond with us to let us know? Do you have, I don't think you have everybody's email address in the group anymore.
I used to. Am
Do you
I
wanna
allowed to
send
do
it-
that anyways?
Sorry?
Am I allowed to send the email to the whole?
Mm-mm.
No.
But people have sent information to me and I
Okay,
have
yeah.
sent them,
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
Crystal just suggested. So
Okay.
can she send it to you?
Yeah. if I
And you look
find
at it, look for it in the same, is that okay, Olivia, if you look for it too? Because I feel like between the two of you, you guys are top notch to find it, so. I know that it, obviously the reason for the mitigation is because it is prime ag land. I believe that land was farmed before, is that correct?
Which land are you talking about?
At the high school.
Oh, that was, yeah, the where it's at right now, that was farmed before. Jose Ramirez farmed it. And that farm, yeah, and prior to that, that was part of the Yankee farm before the high school was there. And the high school naturally was on North Street. And then when they moved the high school to off of Butte Cutoff Road, it was because they took the land of Bianca Flowers due to eminent domain, because they viewed by the year 2000, which was 24 years ago, there would be 2,000 students at this high school.
Almost there.
And so
What year did they think this would happen?
by 24 years ago, 2000, by year 2000, we would
Wow.
have 2,000 students. And so,
But then they get no one permits to build houses.
yeah, and so here, I feel,
You're hitting the nail on
because
the head.
they took it with eminent domain deemed for a certain purpose. And they took it out of agriculture for a certain purpose, is for the school to have X amount of students. I feel it should go back to the farmer. That's my opinion. I've been saying that for a long time. And because they deemed it for this, and now they're doing something different completely. And
What
so
was the most recent that it's been farmed? What's the most recent?
I would say a few years ago, they stopped Jose Ramirez, if I'm not, I don't want to misspeak, but if I'm not.
Because had fava beans on there
Pretty recently, okay, and so, it's, like I say, it's, anyways, and, they missed the mark. There's that 2000, and, I think when I graduated in 78, there was like 110 kids, students there. I think there's less, so.
Now that this mitigation property, it's my understanding from the most recent planning discussion on this, that it was, the onus is now on, that they give the money to purchase the property to a different entity. And now that entity is in charge of finding the mitigation property. I think it's like Post or Midpen or somebody like that. It's not the county. And if in fact that's the case, then our letter going to the county, will it have any impact? Will they give it to Post? Will it have impact on the people that are making these decisions? I mean, will it be read?
Well, I feel if we word it in the right way, saying that, basically, can you please, before the final decision occurs, let us have our input, and the meeting just open like that, so whoever they need to contact, or when they find out this is the property they're looking at, us just, and if we come back for our feedback, then we can give our input, but, and if they bring it to the right people, fine, if they don't, if they just throw it under the table, well, there's nothing we can do. We did our part by telling them we want to be involved with, so we can have proper feedback with our years of experience and expertise.
Okay,
And then,
okay,
then if they drop the ball, well, they drop the ball.
okay, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Okay.
we did our part.
We did our part, okay.
And because we can't send a letter direct, we're doing our part to advise the county that we would have been in the loop, so we can give our feedback or our expertise.
which makes sense. I understand that, so that's good.
And
Okay.
and utilize our camp committee as how it was formed, is to advise within the ag community, that's what we're doing. So,
Good. I think that's good. The chair recognizes Corin Whittle.
So, it looks like August 2022 was the month that it was presented. to
Oh,
the
good
committee.
girl. Really? That's almost 2 years ago. Really?
It's kind of unbelievable.
Did time really go that fast? Really? Oh my God. August 2022. Okay. So, do you have is the paperwork there on an attachment?
Oh, I'm not that savvy. I just have my notes, like, but I see.
Oh, well, you know,
Well-
it's August 2022. That's the meeting, so you could get
Yeah.
the paperwork, Olivia, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing if I can access it.
That's great.
yeah, the Pescadero Elementary used to be Pescadero Panthers, not the Pumas.
They're the Pumas now?
That's what that shirt says.
Why are they the Pumas?
They used to be the Panthers.
How come they changed?
You know, I wasn't involved in that.
Yeah.
What's
But
wrong
maybe
with
because it
that?
fits on a sweatshirt.
You know what? You're right. That's a good.
That's what I saw.
Oh, I bet the cost of the
They're the
sweatshirt's a
same,
little more if it's a
They're the
long
same
one.
species, actually, right?
Is that the one that walked into the school?
Yeah, I think that's,
Did it really? In the high school?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe
funny.
that made the news.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny. Did it sit down and like have a desk and everything?
I forget.
I think it was a juvenile, wasn't
It
it?
was,
Yeah,
That's right. I remember
I
that.
saw it.
I remember that
I don't know,
story.
paid off top, but I saw it a couple days before it happened. It was young and kind of scared and.
Well, I heard it went to the library because I wanted to check out the book of the Lion King.
And all those watching online,
I know.
you got your comedy for the evening.
Yeah, that was the first thing when you said that. I noticed. I said, what happened to the Panthers?
How many people in your graduating class?
About 22, 25, something like that.
Wow.
And it was, they said that when they took over that farm in Edmonton, Maine, then they kind of missed the mark here, so.
So, okay, so that's good. So next, so you'll put that on an agenda again, the Pescadero Fire Station. Okay, and we'll do all that. We'll work on Olivia, are you okay if you find that, sending it to me? You'll be able to send it to everybody, the whole committee, right?
I found it.
Oh, bless your heart.
I'm sending it.
Yay, thank you.
Because it's on, I mean, it was published, right? So
Yeah.
I just had to go to archives.
Right, exactly. Thank you very much. And then, is there anything else before I adjourn? Okay, so meeting's adjourned.